Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. How do you bring out the devotee in you while doing activities like exercising or shopping? How do you perform these acts of worship? How can exercising be, and how can it be made an act of worship? How shopping can be made an act of worship?
I have a suggestion.
Pardon me?
I have a suggestion for that.
Oh, you have a suggestion? Listen to me first, then you give a suggestion. Is it okay? See if I work out, if I pass the test or not. So this is really called yoga, the art of connecting everything to Ishvara. Because everything is connected to Ishvara, understand? As I said, Ishvara is my own self, as well as the self of everyone. Ishvara is the creator. He is the one who is a witness to all the actions. He is the dispenser of the results of the action. He pervades our entire life. In whatever we do, Ishvara is always involved. Without Ishvara, nothing can be done. So, exercising is a good activity because there you are by yourself and you can say to yourself, I am exercising so that my body is fit. With that fit body, I can serve the Lord better. So we can connect. Taking shower, I am cleaning my body, invigorating my body. With that, I can worship better. Go to sleep. Why am I sleeping? So that I wake up in the morning fresh, so I can worship better. Why am I eating? So that my body is nourished in good condition. Thus, ideal bhakta is the one for whom the only agenda is worshipping the Lord. And therefore, connecting whatever you do with the worship. An act may be directly or indirectly an act of worship. So we can say that eating is an indirect act of worship because it prepares you for worshipping. You can make it a direct act of worshipping. For example, when you're eating, you take a morsel of food and put it in your mouth. See, we are chanting the 15th chapter of the Gita. And the reason why we chant is because there are verses which describe how Ishvara is in the form of the food. Ushnamicha aushadhi sarvaha somo bhutva rasatmagaha. Lord Krishna says, as the moon, which is an embodiment of juice, I impart the sap, the juice, and the taste and nourishment to all the plants and vegetables. Meaning that Lord Krishna says, I am in the form of the food in front of you, in your plate. Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamasita. I am the very digestive fire in the stomach of all the living beings. And as digestive fire, I digest all kinds of food. So then, the food also is Ishvara. The one who digests also is Ishvara. The one who offers also is Ishvara. So thus, Ishvara is involved in every interaction. In exercising also. When can I exercise? When there is a certain strength in the body, then I can exercise. Who gives me this? Lord Krishna says, I am the strength of the strong. Balam balavatam chaham. I am the strength of the strong. So Ishvara in the form of the strength, Ishvara in the form of air is part of my breath. By His grace I am doing this. That I can do this action of exercising because of the grace of Ishvara. In fact, it is He who inspires me and motivates me to do exercise. Who wants to do exercise otherwise, really? Everybody wants to avoid it. The fact that I am doing it now means I am enjoying a special grace that I am doing it. So, remember the grace of Ishvara. Remember how it is because of His intelligence, His power that we are doing what we are doing. So that way when exercising also involves directly grace of Ishvara. As breath also is Ishvara. As body also Ishvara. As the one who performs exercise also Ishvara. Shopping. That's a little difficult thing. Shopping. Shopping also is an act, is an action. And so, like any other action, that action is also possible because Ishvara is Karmadhyaksha. Karmadhyaksha means the one who witnesses all the actions. Because of whose grace, all actions are possible. It is by the strength given by Him, by intelligence given. See, when you shop also, in India at least, shopping is an art. Here also, I guess. You do bargaining and things like that, So all that also requires certain skills that are again provided by Ishvara. And you have the aesthetic sense. You choose this shade and that shade, and you can in fact differentiate between fine, shades, etc. But to me, everything will look green. You can see 6 shades of green. Now that is the capacity provided by Ishvara. So how by capacity provided by Ishvara, I'm doing what I'm doing. And thus pay attention to any action that you're performing. And you'll be able to see how Ishvara is involved in that action. How by His grace it is being done. How I am grateful to Ishvara. And then may this act of shopping be for pleasing the Lord. How can Lord be pleased by act of shopping? Well, Lord in the form of the self may be pleased by this act of shopping. Or the one who sells me this, Lord in that form may be pleased by this act of shopping. And thus, it is a matter of giving thought to any action that we do to connect Ishvara in that action. This is bringing Ishvara into our life. Bring Ishvara into our life. Just by His grace, by the strength that He provides, by all the abilities that He provides, by the opportunities He provides. When can I shop? Provided I have some money in my pocket, that also is provided by Ishvara. In this way, these acts also can be converted into a certain thinking. We can connect Ishvara with these acts or any other act and thus convert them into also acts of worship. Now, see, let's see what.
No, I apologize. I'm doing part of this as my sadhana, so my hands shot up without me even thinking.
Oh, all right.
One suggestion I have is everything is for Ishvara or Krishna. So when you go shopping, you buy flowers for the altar, and you're thinking, you get scented flowers so that Ishvara can be pleased. And when you shop for clothes, you're buying not for yourself, you're buying to please Ishvara. So it puts everything in a different perspective. So that food, everything is prasad. So you're not just buying apples, you're buying the best apples to please Krishna. Or to please
Krishna is their own self.
So, right. So
the body is the temple. So when you buy clothes, well, that is for decorating the temple of the Lord. Ornaments also. When you buy ornaments for decorating the temple in the form of this body, put a dot, act of worship for the Ishvara who is in this temple. So looking upon body as a temple, all actions connected with body is looked upon as decorating the temple, and that way offering to Ishvara. So that is how also Ishvara can be brought into our activities. If Lord accepts us as we are, in all our worship He accepts, why is it said that the mantra be recited in very specific way and intonation to be effective? Why is it said? Why am I said that you recite mantra in a certain way? Om, not Namo Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Namo Shivaya becomes Namah Shivaya, in Sanskrit. That Namo Shivaya means, so it just changes the sense altogether. Om Namah Shivaya. Chant that way, otherwise the meaning may change. And when you take the care to chant a mantra or a word properly, it shows your commitment to offer the best to Ishvara. So you cannot be sloppy. When you want to please somebody, take a gift for somebody, you take the best, or make sure that you take the gift that that person likes. You inquire, what does Swamiji like, You don't bring just anything and everything, you bring something. So that way, when we perform any act to please somebody or an act of devotion, we want to do it properly. Not just do it. Otherwise, it doesn't show sincerity. So sincerely when you do something, you want to do it well. Therefore, you know that even when you chant your mantra, you want to offer the best to Ishvara. Therefore, you will chant so that He is pleased. He is pleased anyway. But He is more pleased when you do it properly. And so, whenever a little child just, what does it do? What do you call it? Prattling. That also is okay. But when a child chants, utters a correct word or correct spelling, you are more pleased. And so Ishvara is pleased anyway, but when he sees some sinceritiness, not sloppiness, that's also a lack of sincerity, lack of commitment. So by doing what you do properly, perform an act of worship, perform it properly. What does it matter, Swamiji? Well, it matters this way. Not for Ishvara, for you it matters. That you have a commitment to do something properly, therefore you will learn how to do. You will learn how to chant. You will learn how to worship. Learn how to do given thing, how to place even a flower. There is a way of doing it. So when you utter the name, utter properly as best as you can. At least Lord sees that you are sincere. You are making an attempt. If you are imperfect, that is okay. But that there is a sincerity here. There is a commitment. That is what is most important in any action of offering. Just because you are feeding somebody doesn't mean you feed anything. You feed something that is good and something that is nourishing to that person. So when you do an act, do it well, do it properly. When you offer clothes that can fit that person, and which can be used by that person. So how we take care of those things in our other activities? So when we take care to see that the gift that I bring on Mother's Day is what mothers like, not just anything. Can't we take that kind of a care in making offering to Ishvara? So it is not for Ishvara, it is for our own self that we want to do things correct, properly, as best as we can. We may not be perfect, but at least we have made an effort to be as good as we can. So that is desirable. Of course, the traditional people will tell you that if you do not sometimes utter a thing properly, it can change the meaning. Just as I just said, Om Namo Shivaya. So what it means is, Om, see when A is elided after O. Om Namah Shivaya. So Om Namah Shivaya, that Vasarga becomes O and A is elided. Om Namo Shivaya. So what it means? Om Namah Shivaya. My salutation to Ashiva, who is not Shiva, inauspicious, So thus the meaning can change. Lord knows, of course, but still, the meaning can change. And there is a story as to how when a mantra was not uttered properly. When you say, Indra Shatru Vivardatam, in Taittiriya Upanishad that example is given, in Bhashya, in Tika it is given. Indra Shatru, because Taittiriya Upanishad says that is a Shiksha Valli. Shiksha means the science of phonetics. How to utter everything correct. It's a big science in every language, but in particularly in Sanskrit. How to utter a given letter. How to utter the word Nama. He will give you a 15-minute lecture on how to utter the word Nama. How the Na is uttered. From where all different sthanas it passes. Ma, Visarga. And so, they say that if you recite things incorrectly, like at one point, Indra apparently killed one person whose name was Vishwarupa. Because that fellow was cheating. That is why. So Vishwarupa's father said, I will avenge this. He wanted to take the revenge. So he wanted a son who will kill Indra. Indra Shatru. So Indra means the killer of Indra. Indra Shatru Vardatam. But Indra Shatru, that word is a compound word. It can be resolved in two ways. Either it can resolve as a Tatpurusha Samasa. Indrasya Shatruhu means the Shatru or the destroyer of Indra. Or in Bahuvrihi, Indra Shatru Yasya Saha Indra Shatru. Indra is the Shatru for Indra becomes destroyer. So now if we chant it one way, it becomes Tatpurusha Samasa, where you emphasize, other way it becomes Bahuvrihi Samasa. So this fellow recited wrongly. Instead of Tatpurusha Samasa, it became Bahuvrihi Samasa. So son who was born was killed by Indra. So in killing Indra, Indra killed him. So thus the stories are being told that if you do not recite things correctly, the result can be quite disastrous. That doesn't mean we do not create scare or fear here. Certainly a devotee has nothing to fear from Ishvara. That doesn't mean that devotee is sloppy and careless, That also is not right. Because that shows a lack of sincerity and lack of commitment. I have heard and read so many times, Aham Brahmasmi, meaning I am Brahman. I am the limitless. I have heard this so many times, read it so many times. But I do understand it intellectually. But like tube light, I am not experiencing it. This tube light is a typical Indian expression. In India, fluorescent light, when you switch on, then it takes a little while before the light comes. So sometimes when you say something, person does not understand right away. Oh, then all of a sudden a light comes. Yeah. So that's called tube light. So it is called light of knowledge, Oh, yeah. So that's why knowledge also is called light. So this person says, the tube light that I am Brahman is not happening. So when will it happen that I experience? So continue to listen and read and think, but at the same time, a commitment for purification of mind is very important. In a mind that is pure, purified, in that mind, these words reveal their meaning. Because for the words to reveal their meaning, a particular preparation is always required. So for understanding the words that I am speaking, the preparation in form of the language is required. Not only language, But some background of Vedanta also is required. So that is a preparation required even for understanding these words. Similarly, to understand the words of scriptures, we require not only language, that's okay, but we require the maturity of preparedness of the mind. In Vedanta, it's called adhikaritvam, fitness of the mind. Viveka, vairagya, samadhi, shatka sampatti, mumukshutvam. Viveka, discrimination, vairagya, dispassion. And third, samadhi, shatka sampatti. Shamaha, tranquility of the mind. Damaha, control over the senses. Uparama, inwardness of the mind. Titiksha, forbearance. Shraddha, an implicit faith or trust in the words of scriptures and the teacher. Samadhanam, the single pointedness of the mind. So these are the qualifications that are said to be required for the knowledge to take place. And therefore, we should, while we are also listening to Vedanta, studying Vedanta, thinking about Vedanta, we also simultaneously strive to work on our mind. So, Lord Krishna prescribed, we were discussing in the last 5 days in Milpitas, the 20 values which are prescribed by Lord Krishna. So, those values, worship. So, practicing values is one way of purifying the mind. Worshiping Ishvara, one way of purifying the mind. Karma Yoga, way of purifying the Karma Yoga is also worship. So all of these practices are taught to us for purification of mind and concentration of mind. So we need to do those also. Meaning that in our daily routine, apart from study, etc., we should also have time for prayers, time for worship. That also should be there. That we make an attempt to become karma yogis, meaning deliberately and consciously cultivate the spirit of being contributor. That you have value for being a kind person, a charitable person, a giving person. All this has to be done. Then what is intellectual becomes, what's in the head becomes in the heart, meaning that then it becomes a reality for us. It's a process. It's not that someday it will happen. As the mind becomes prepared, this becomes more and more real to us. A day will come when we will be completely rooted in that knowledge. So it doesn't happen in one stroke. It is a process. So self-growth is a process. And so also, clarity of the knowledge also is a process that takes place. And we have to consciously do that. How to attain a pure or contemplative mind? Next question. Well, we already talked about it. What are out-of-body experiences? Do you believe in them? I don't have an out-of-body experience, but I hear about them. So I guess it must be there. Some people have reported and written about out-of-body, meaning he left the body. Something happened. Some trauma happened. And he just left the body. He's sitting there, standing there, apparently, someplace, and watching what is happening. So he watches the surgeons working on his body and then things, and then he comes back, it looks like, to tell this story. So, I don't know how that happens, out of body experience. But people do report. So, if you go out of this body, how can this body remain alive, So, this subtle body should remain here for this body to be alive. If that is here, then how can he's there also is unless the mind splits into two. Part of the mind is in the body, part of the mind is there, or what it is. I have not given enough thought to this mechanism, but the question written on both the sides. How do we spend our waking hours in the state of being connected to Ishvara? Again, we talked about it. As I said, whatever now we have been listening to Vedanta, And so we understand what is the nature of Ishvara, and using that understanding or knowledge, we have to connect whatever we do with Ishvara. As we just talked, how different actions also can be connected to Ishvara. We tend to become disconnected. Yes, we do. When you go back to the same rut, we become disconnected. And so, what is also required is alertness, a commitment as well as alertness. So you get disconnected, wake up, get connected. Again, we are not alert, we become disconnected. We wake up. So that's how constantly practice of bringing the mind back to our focus, Scientist evolution theory discards Ishvara. What is Vedanta's proof for Ishvara? What is Vedanta's proof for Ishvara? Scriptures are our proof, that's all. There's no logical proof for Ishvara. Science works on logic and it should work on logic. Logically, we cannot prove Ishvara because logic can be applied to this way or that way. At the same time, understand that logically, nobody can disprove Ishvara also. If logically we cannot prove Ishvara, nobody should be proud to say that I can disprove Ishvara. Therefore, whenever you debate with somebody about Ishvara, don't try to prove Ishvara. If that fellow questions Ishvara's existence, ask him to disprove it. That's all. Let's see how he does it. Nobody can disprove also. Because Ishvara is not a matter of logic. Had it been a matter of logic, you can prove it or disprove it. It is not a matter of logic. Logic is born after Ishvara. When logic is not there, then also Ishvara is. Logic comes when creation comes. When creation is not, then also Ishvara is. So Ishvara is there before logic and after logic also. Therefore, Ishvara is not approachable by logic. Therefore, Shastra or Veda scriptures are our evidence for Ishvara. And then it makes sense. So when we provide reasoning to explain Ishvara, it is not the proving logic, it is supporting logic. So when we discuss Ishvara this afternoon, for example, how he is the maker as well as material. He is Nimitta Karanam, the efficient cause, Upadana Karanam, material cause. All that was based on scriptures. We showed it with the reasoning. So reasoning that we provide in explaining Ishvara is meant for understanding what the scriptures say. It is not proving logic, it is logic supporting logic, not proving logic. But scientists are committed to only logic. And therefore, by logic, you can say, I don't. The thing is, it is like this. If you can explain your experiences or the world without bringing Ishvara in, you need not accept Ishvara. See, this debate is going on not only with scientists, it is going on from the ancient times. Because in the 6 schools of thought, there are certain schools which do not accept Ishvara. Sankhya does not accept Ishvara. They say that the matter evolves. Matter has inherent intelligence to evolve. That's what they say. Therefore, we do not require Ishvara to explain creation. Mimamsakas don't accept Ishvara. They say that the world is created by karma, and karma has in it the potential of giving its result. So don't require an Ishvara. Jains do not accept Ishvara. They say that this world is created by karma. Buddhas don't accept Ishvara. They say that this world is a projection of the mind. So if you can explain it differently, you don't require Ishvara. But Vedanta says that you cannot explain it satisfactorily without including Ishvara. Because karma, we discussed, is inert. And therefore, how can karma create? Some intelligent entity creates with the help of karma, but karma itself cannot create. And matter is not intelligent. Therefore, there cannot be inherent. If matter seems to function in an intelligent manner, it means that there is an intelligent principle that is guiding the matter to evolve in a certain way. This is what we say. It looks like matter is evolving on its own. The rule of the what is selection? What selection? Natural selection. So that an organism makes natural selection, and therefore you don't require Ishvara. But how does it make natural selection? We say that natural selection is guided by an intelligent principle. That is Ishvara. How can you say it is not? Just because you can't say something is not there just because you don't see. They don't see, therefore they don't accept Ishvara. But you don't see, how do you see that matter is actually evolving by itself? That also can be, established. So, we see matter evolving in an intelligent manner because the universal intelligence that is Ishvara, it provides that intelligence because of which the matter evolves. Like you see that a pot is created intelligently. There's a lump of clay. It becomes pot in an intelligent manner. But we know that the clay doesn't have the intelligence to form itself as a pot. It requires an intelligent entity, in this case a pot maker, to transform the lump of clay into pot. Similarly, an intelligent entity is required to transform matter into an intelligent form. What is Vedanta's proof? That's it. Vedanta provides supporting logic. Vedanta does not claim to prove Ishvara. Even Nyayikas try to prove. Our logicians, they provide several ways of proving that there is Ishvara. They said, look, this universe is an assembly of variety of components, all interconnected, working, functioning as an organic whole. It's an assembly. Assembly always requires somebody else to assemble. Like this hall is an assembly of walls and ceilings and whatever. And walls and ceilings cannot themselves assemble. So there must be someone other than this who has assembled them. Similarly, the universe also is an assembly. There must be someone other than the universe who must have assembled it. But a more intelligent person can find some fault with this logic also. So we do not claim to prove Ishvara logically. We say that for us, scripture is only pramanam, the means of knowledge, and we provide supporting logic. But we can invite somebody else to disprove Ishvara. As I said, that also cannot be done by logic. If anybody has any question regarding this discussion, you can raise your hand so you can clarify before I go to the next one. Okay? Does Rudram fall in the category of japa or chintanam? Japa means repeating a mantra. Chintana means repeating mentally. It can be either way. Meaning that you can recite Rudram orally, then it can cause stava, means a hymn. Or sometimes they recite Rudram number of times. It can be called japa if you want to. But if you do the same thing mentally and see the meaning of these words, it can also become chintanam when it's done mentally. If I perform actions without this sense, what is in it for me? Suppose I perform an action without this attitude. What is out there in it? What is in it for me? Meaning that I perform an action without selfishness. But other people, other close people think and impose that your actions are only self-centered because of a self-improvement. You follow? So when you perform an action without selfishness, they say, well, that action also is for self-improvement. So it is selfish action. How do we reconcile? But point is that what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to stretch myself. When I perform action for self-gratification, I am only, restricting or constricting myself. When I perform action as an offering, there is definitely something to gain, but the intention is to make the action an offering. Gain is of a different nature. When I perform action, self-centered action, the gain is generally physical, material gain, gross gain. When I perform an action without selfishness, the gain is subtle. Gain is there, but that gain is not, she's not called self because that is not the gain at the cost of somebody. When I perform a self-centered action, it is going to be a gain at the cost of somebody. My gain is somebody's loss. On the other hand, when I perform an action without a self-centered attitude, then my gain is without the loss. My gain is accompanied by gain of somebody. It's a win-win situation, you follow? Not win and lose situation, but gain-gain situation. By my action, somebody also gains, and then I also gain, definitely. And therefore, it is not purely a self-centered action. It's an action where the purpose of the self is served indirectly, where the purpose of somebody else is served directly. Is that clear? I guess it's clear if nobody objects. I teach teenagers Introduction to Vedanta. I always have trouble reconciling contentment with ambition. So young people have ambitions, and Vedanta teaches contentment. You can't tell youth not to be ambitious. How do you explain to give up desire? Meaning that communicating the teaching of Vedanta to the youth is a difficult thing because it creates a conflict in their mind, a confusion in their mind. What we are teaching is quite opposite to what the state of mind they have. Therefore, do not teach young people to give up desire. Don't tell them. Because they can't do it. We should only teach that which a person can do. As yet, the young person has not gained the ability to give up desire, even if he or she wants to give up desire. Therefore, we take for granted that ambition is in the nature of the young person. So then, we should teach them what is the right way of fulfilling that ambition. Because very often, ambitions are fulfilled not in the right way, meaning that when I'm ambitious, I'm aggressive. When aggressive, I sometimes become insensitive. And in the process of fulfilling my ambition, I may hurt somebody also. Therefore, we should teach them how to fulfill ambitions properly. how not to compromise means for the sake of end. Then you have the freedom to fulfill your ambition. At the same time, make sure that you do not compromise values, that you do not hurt somebody. That's all we can teach. That's what is, in my opinion, the right thing to do. Teach them values, teach them dharma, teach them to be sensitive, teach them value for being a contributor. Teach them. But vairagya, etc., is not, at this age. Everything requires preparedness. Therefore, it's likely to create a lot of confusion and conflict if you teach them vairagya, etc., at this age. Recently, my husband and I have been discussing rather strongly the merits and demerits of taking US citizenship. I do not like how this country has behaved in policy and war towards others. And therefore, meaning that I do not approve of the way the United States is treating others. That is the opinion of this person. My husband says, you don't associate yourself with the actions of the government by taking citizenship. So when you become a citizen, does it mean that you have a commitment to or you identify with what the government does? The oath of citizenship involves, I guess, the loyalty to the country and loyalty to constitution, not necessarily loyalty to what the government does, because there are many citizens, I think more than 50% now, who do not agree with what the government does. When the popularity rate is going down of the present president, he is now 47% or something like that, and so that means that more than 50% disapprove of what the government does. But that is not what the country stands for. Ideally, the country stands for liberty and justice, liberty, freedom, happiness. That's what. Now, how to interpret those things in terms of action depends upon a particular person, particular government. So government also is supposedly committed to those values. But this is their interpretation, because a value has to be interpreted, understand. What is meant by justice is to be interpreted in a given situation, any value. And so we say that it is the interpretation of this government of the values which are taught by the Constitution. So a citizen is loyal to the Constitution and not to a particular government or a particular leadership, I think. Therefore, I think that by becoming a citizen, you do not necessarily condone what the government is doing, because many citizens, they do not. Many of them don't. So, identification, citizenship means identification with the country, means what the country stands for, what the constitution is. It is quite possible that you may not agree with the constitution or principles of many countries who may be founded on some orthodox religious principles which may go against the basic values of life. And then you say that I don't disagree with the very fundamentals upon which the state is based. But that's not the case with the US. It is not based on, it's based on right fundamentals. If those fundamentals cannot be practiced, it shows the inability of a given government to be able to implement those fundamentals. That's how I would say. Somebody else can offer the opinion, but this is how I would think. Swamiji, don't you think the use of the words like the Lord, like He, create confusion and a sense of Dvaita or duality? It makes it harder to grasp the truth. That truth is I. So your presentation of Ishvara is an object of worship. You the worshipper and Ishvara the one who is worshipped. That involves duality. So how do you reconcile that with the teaching of Vedanta? It says that you are identical to Ishvara. So here again, we accept the reality as it exists for us today. That yes, ideally I am Brahman, but that is not yet a reality for me. Therefore, I respect what my present reality is, where I feel a sense of individuality. I feel a separation from Ishvara. That being the case, I begin where I am. And these acts of worship, karma yoga, worship, all of these are meant to slowly erase the duality and not perpetuate duality. So in the realm of duality, when I act with a self-centered desire, that perpetuates the duality. On the other hand, when I act in a selfless manner, that is meant to dilute and ultimately erase the duality. Therefore, first, accepting the duality. How do we conduct ourselves in the duality so that we progressively grow out of duality? Then we become prepared for the knowledge of non-duality. Thus, the karma yoga, the worship, all of these are meant for accepting the duality that we feel at the moment to help us slowly grow out of the duality. Okay? But that discussion will come tomorrow. Ramana Maharshi himself will discuss. Swamiji, the same similar question. Swamiji, the most chanted arati, Jai Jagadish Hare. The Indian people would know this, others may not know this Jai. You see in the temples, all Hindu temples, or most of the Hindu temples, when they are showing the lamp before the Lord in the evening, the final ritual, they recite this prayer. Om Jai Jagadish Hare. Hare, O Hare. Hey Jagadish. Jagadish means the Lord of the universe. Hey Hare, O Lord Hare, Jai, victory to you. In that, there are many lines which say that one who worships the Lord becomes endowed with the wealth and prosperity. And so, jo dhyave phal paave dukha vinase manaka sukha sampati ghar aave kashta mite tanaka. Meaning that the one who meditates upon the Lord, worships the Lord, he gets the benefit, the reward. What's the reward? Dukha vinase manaka. All the sorrow of the mind goes away. Sukha sampati ghara ave. The happiness and prosperity comes home. Kastamire tanaka. All the ailments of the body also, they go away. So the question is, should we repeat this? This is all asking for all worldly things, So when you repeat that, and there are many other lines also.
It also creates a duality. It says,
what will you do then? Duality means you stop eating and stop. Whatever you do is in duality. When you eat food, that's duality. That food is there, I am the eater. As long as there is a notion that I am an individual, that is duality. That's what I say. In duality, we want to conduct ourselves in such a manner that we grow out of duality. Otherwise, you have nothing to talk. I am Brahman, that's all. Stop talking, stop doing anything. So understand that this particular prayer is chanted because most people have a need of worldly prosperity. That is also a reality. Not everybody is ready for Brahman or moksha. Even if they are ready for moksha, they still want this also. So not only we want moksha, we want also material prosperity. And therefore, even our Swamiji also added this. Om Namo Bhagavate Dakshinamurte Mahyam. Now original mantra is Medham Prajnam Prayacha Swaha. Please give me Medha, the intelligence, Prajna, the wisdom. Our Swamiji added Shriyam, give me wealth. Because he said that everybody needs that. So people have a need. And we respect where we are. It is no point in denying. You can't deny the duality in order to achieve non-duality. You cannot deny your present urges and needs and say there is not there. That's not, denial will not work. Growing out of something will work. And until you grow out of that, you have to respect that this is what you need and do what you need to do for that. So this is all denial of duality is not non-duality. It is conducting ourselves in the duality so that we progressively grow out of duality. So not denial of duality, it is non-duality. Similar questions. I think today lots of questions are on the same line. My true nature is Satchidananda. However, today all my experiences are of a limited nature. Total freedom and limitlessness are just words and concepts for me. This is because of my ignorance and impurity of the mind. Even after contemplating on this thought, I am unlimited, infinite. I do not realize it. I wonder if this Satchidananda can ever be achieved. It can definitely be achieved because it is our nature. Number one, that's all we want. The desire behind all the desires is for Satchidananda. And therefore, our mind will not rest until it achieves or fulfills this desire. So yes, it will be. All we can do is to conduct ourselves in a manner that this desire can be fulfilled quicker. Otherwise, take Number of births. We have been doing it, going through that anyway. So yes, because Satchidananda is our nature, therefore today or tomorrow it has to become reality. When you are committed, what we can do is commitment and do what best we can do in terms of, as we said, purification of mind. And this person understands it is because of ignorance and impurity of the mind that I can't. Alright, that means we have to strive to bring about the purity of mind, at the same time continue listening, contemplation also. Once I realize I am all knowing, would it also lead to knowing all of the nature, fields of science, knowledge of the material world? Once I realize I am all knowing. You see that all knowing can be in two ways. There are two aspects of knowledge. One is general knowledge, other is a particular knowledge. There is a pot, for example. One way of knowing the pot is, this is clay. Other way of knowing the pot is, what is this volume? What is knowing all the details, who made it and when it was made and what is its weight. So this is all the particular aspects of it. When Vedanta says that by knowing Brahman you know everything, it is you know everything in general, not in particular. Meaning that you know yourself as Brahman and everything else as Brahman. As far as knowledge of all, then will I know how many grains of sand there are in the world? How many stars there are in the sky? No, because that is the function of mind. And mind has its limitations. Therefore, you will be limited by the body, mind, sense complex. Meaning that your eyes will remain what they are. It's not that now that you are a Brahmagnani that you can see what is beyond 10 miles or what is behind this wall. These kind of things don't happen because the upadhi does not change. The limitation of the upadhi remain. Only your perception changes. That so far you thought that you are limited, you no more see that. You see yourself as free from limitation. You see yourself as one, as non-dual. See everything is manifestation of self. But then that doesn't mean that you know how many cells there are in this body, etc. That's all particular knowledge. That doesn't come and that is not necessary also. When you know this, that you are Brahman, you are totally satisfied with your knowledge. If other things, they just become a matter of pastime. Other things are no more necessity. So, whatever is necessary, that you know. And other things are not necessary. It's up to you whether you want to explore some other fields of knowledge. But that's all at the level of mind. All right, I think we'll conclude here. We'll reserve these questions for tomorrow. We'll conclude our session with one bhajan. Okay. Today is Saturday, so it's a day of Rama, Lord Rama. Jaya Raghunandana, Jaya Jaya Rama, Jaya Raghunandana, Jaya Raghunandana, Jaya Jaya Rama, Jaya Jaya Jagat Janani Janaki Rama, Jaya Jagat Janani Janaki Rama, Jaya Jagat Janani जानकी रामा जय जगज्जननी जय रघुनंदन जय जय रामा जय जय जगज्जननी जानकी रामा जय नव नव कोमल मेघ श्यामा नव 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 कोमल मेघ श्यामा नव नव भयहरणा भद्राचल रामा भयहरणा भद्राचल रामा भयहरणा भद्राचल रामा भयहरणा भद्राचल रामा दशरथ नंदन हे परंधाम दशरथ नंदन दशरथ नंदन हे परंधाम दशरथ नंदन दशमुख मर्दन श्री रघुरामा दशमुख मर्दन श्री रघुरामा दशमुख मर्दन श्री रघुरामा दशमुख मर्दन श्री रघुरामा राम 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 Ram 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 Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhaved Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amrutangamaya Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamada Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Namaha Hari Om